Today, we're going to show you how to get to 7 figures in cleaning business. You have to do it one step at a time. It seems like an impossible goal when you start, but you got to land that first commercial contract. And that is the key, landing that first commercial contract, because that gives you a second one, a third one, a fourth one. And we want to talk about the ways we did that, the shortcuts that we use. And they're not necessarily shortcuts. You have to do the work. But don't make the same mistakes we did. Save yourself time and get to that 7 figures. And Cam is going to go over the basic first steps to get you going to that goal.
Yeah, in the beginning we didn't have a brand, a referral list, or any sales outreach team. It was just us doing everything. But we're going to show you how to, when it is just you, build a list of people that you can contact and then do the appropriate amount of outreach and the things that you need to do to land your first commercial cleaning contract. Because I think if you're in this cleaning space, you probably used to house cleaning. And house cleaning and commercial cleaning are two very different games. I think one of the uncomfortable truths too with this is that you have to do outreach. If you're not willing to have the confidence to send a cold email or send a cold call, you're not going to get contracts. I mean, I think in the beginning we did cold emails, we did some door-to-door stuff, which was slightly ineffective to be frank. But the cold emails had success, and some of the cold calls had success. And then the early SEO work eventually had success for us.
Yeah, work harder, not smarter. If you're out driving around, and that's where we struggled. We drove around door to door, and I think maybe we got one contract, a small contract doing that, but how much time do you waste driving? If you're in a rural area, you gotta drive more. If you're in a city, it takes time to get anywhere. So literally we found door to door, maybe somebody's better than us at it, but it was not effective. It was the cold emails that Cam sent out, and then we'd always, when they called at first, we always answered the phone. We had a phone,
Yep.
And it was always answered when they called.
Yep, that phone ringing is money. That's why you answer that thing. But I do think, before we get into the emailing and building a list and doing outreach, something that is very important that a lot of people overlook is that you have to look legit everywhere. You have to have the basic stuff, right? Obviously, you have to have a company name, and you have to have a URL, like a domain that you buy, and then you have to make a website. And then you have to look legit everywhere. And if you want to be successful, you want to only get commercial contracts, look the part, right? And that is very essential, just building out that basic brand in the beginning and that you have it everywhere. And then once you have the website built, you have the name and you have everything, you need to go out and make, first and foremost, your Google My Business profile is the most important listing there is out there. But all the other profiles do matter. You have Facebook, you have Yelp, you have Angie's List, you have all these places. There's literally hundreds, thousands of listing sites. A lot of them are even local. Like, go to your local area, you can find local listings. And you really want your name to be on those places. And that helps your ranking everywhere, and it just makes you look like a real authority, because when you reach out to somebody, say via cold email, and they see the email and they go to see your name, and then they Google your name and they pull up your business website and they're like, oh, this is a real person. It's a real company. I'm going to call them, see what they can offer.
And the thing about that, you have to have a website, which there is a small cost. I mean, we're in business, you got to have a little bit of money to get started. It's not completely free, but everything else, the Google My Business is free, the Facebook page is free, Yelp is free. All those websites, they want your information. They're all free. So invest a little bit on the website so that you actually have a real website. You can get help. It's relatively inexpensive. For $100 or $200, you can have that completely done. And then everything else, the Google My Business, all of that, completely free. It does take time, but you have to have a little bit of time, a little bit of skin in the game to get this going.
Yeah, I mean, in the beginning, I think it is a matter of putting time in, right? It's just like a matter of the fact of starting any business, and this is no different than that. But I will say nowadays with some of the tools that are out there, I mean, you have like the basic ones like Wix is a big one that everyone knows, but you can quite literally put a website together in minutes. With the AI tools they have within these tools they have for building websites. I mean, it literally, you can take a name and a brand and the colors and your scheme and make a website in 10 minutes. It's that easy. I mean, it's not going to be perfect. Obviously, if you want a really nice website, it's going to take longer than that. But it can literally be done that fast. And it's something that you just have to get done.
So probably, and I think Cam would agree, the most important thing we did was cold emails. Now, there is some research going into it. You need to find the proper person to contact at a company. And yes, there is going onto the internet and seeing who runs this company, or emailing 2 or 3 people, and you email them, and there is software to set this up as you grow. There's small cost for that, but you can do it on your own at first. email these people, and you won't get an answer right away 99% of the time. But what's going to happen is they're going to, a month later, 2 months later, 3 months later, they're going to say, whoa, someone sent me an email about cleaning. And they'll go back and look and say, hey, Ron, they call us, we're having problems with our cleaner, or we need to start a service. Will you come in? And I think that is the number one way we've acquired business, is the cold email contacts. And even if we don't get a contract, let's say they did quotes, we weren't the cheapest, they went with someone else. We've had this happen, used to have this happen, they're bigger than you. You know, you have the national companies. Always it feels like they come back to us eventually. If we do good quality work, they liked us, they go with the other company, but then they come back. But they come back because we continue to email them. I remember one of our biggest contracts this last summer, they called and said, I guess we need you sooner than possible. And they had hired a national company. It didn't work for them. They hired us literally on the spot, and it brings us 6 figures every single year.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I think, you know, it's easy to just say like, hey, send cold emails, but I want to dive into how we actually did it in the beginning, because I think it's important. I don't want to just glaze over that, tell you to do cold emails, and then you're like, well, how the heck do I actually do this? So in the very beginning, there's easy ways to do this, but in the very beginning, completely for free, what I would do is I would go online, I'd go to Google, I'd go to all the businesses that were listed on Google My Business, I'd pull up all the web URLs into one big browser, and then I would go on those websites and find the contact people and find the emails for those contact people. And there's actually free tools you can use, like hunter.io, Snovio has one, that you can press a button and it shows you email lists of people at those websites, and you can install it right in your Chrome browser. So that is an easy hack. But also a lot of the times those websites or those emails, especially for smaller businesses, are just like listed somewhere right on their like main page. And so I would go through, I would find those emails, fill out a small portion of thing on Excel, I'd have like their name, the business, the location, and the email. And then I would send out emails to those emails through Gmail, doing that in the beginning, and I would send out 10, 20 a day. And that in the beginning is how we did it. And then just the email structure themselves really was quite simple. It was hey, and then hey, usually their first name, and then some sort of personalization based off of what the business they had or what they have. Because in the beginning, especially when you're doing this at a smaller scale, like you might as well take the time to personalize it, because that way it doesn't look like you're just like some robotic person reaching out to them. It's like Cam from CT Cleaners took the time to actually write this email and send it to me. And that matters, because people, much higher increase of likelihood of someone responding if they think that you actually took the time to write them this email and it wasn't just a robot. So in the beginning, that is exactly how we did it. Nowadays, there is a ton of tools that you can collect lists from. I mean, there's like the big ones. You have Apollo, I know Snovio does have one. You have Clay, there's like Ninja Leads or something, I think is what it's called. There's tons of them. I mean, like probably 10 major ones that you can find with a quick how do I find list online. And then those will auto-populate, and then you can use a tool like Snovio, and then there's other tools like this too, where you can just set up an email campaign where you take the imported lead list, which has all that same information I used to use, which would be their name, their email, their business, address, etc. And then you can upload that CSV file of that information into Snovio, and then send those leads an email campaign where it's not just you automatically sending one email. I'm sending them, anywhere from 1 to however many emails you want, really, in this campaign. And so that is the entire process of how we send cold emails, essentially. And it's quite literally that simple.
Correct. And one of the things I'd like to add to that is that who are you going after when you're doing this search? You want property managers, you want office managers, you want real estate agents, you want people who control real estate. People who are what everyone in the business is going to call a decision maker. You have to get to the decision maker. And every office is different who that decision maker is. It may be the secretary at the desk who tells their boss, we need this. Or it has to be the owner. Some people, the owner will only make that decision. But you need to get to at least the initial decision maker. The property manager, the office manager, the real estate agent, the salesperson, whoever that is. Maybe it's the manager of the factory, whatever. But it's very important that that email eventually gets there. But if you don't send an email, it never will, because you may send it to Joe, who refers it to Sue, who sends it over to Tom, and then they're the ones that make the decision. But sending that email, by far the most important thing you'll do. And you will, it doesn't happen overnight. Took us a couple of years, 2.5, 3 years to get to 7 figures, but the process is there, and now we think you can do it. If I had to do it again, we'd do it a lot faster. No
Much
question.
faster, there's not a doubt about it. I do think it's really important. I'd like to touch on though, something I did forget is that, you know, with the sending emails, at least at scale, even in the beginning, you really need to make sure that your domain or your emails do not go into spam. That's like the biggest deal out there. There's a website called mailgenius.com, and you go in there, plug in your email, send a test email back to yourself, and it'll tell you everything that's wrong with your email, and then the things that you need to fix. And you go back to your domain registry, your DNS, what they call it, and input the information that MailGenius runs you through. Because there's little simple things that you need to do in the back end to allow your email to go into someone's actual inbox. And another big thing is just not sending too many emails through one domain. You really don't want to send anyone any more than like 40 a day through a single domain. Otherwise, you're going to end up eventually being in the spam box. And once you're in the spam box, it's like page 2 of Google, and no one checks it, you know. So it's really important, and maybe the most important factor of cold emails, in my opinion, is that you don't go to spam.
Yeah, that's obviously if they go to spam, they're never going to see them, so it's a big deal. But I think in closing that part of the emails, calls, they don't close themselves. Once they do call, you need to have somebody answering that phone, assuming you, since you're the owner or your partner, whatever it is, they need to have the confidence. They know what they're talking about. You can't stutter, you can't stumble. You have to be very affirmative. This is what we can do. You know, and what we did is say, we clean. We have a manager who's a backup cleaner. And then if backup cleaner can't make it, we have executive staff who will come in. There's always a backup. One of the things, you know, we guarantee is, you know, we will be there. That is the most important thing, especially when you're starting. They want to know that when they come into that office, because most commercial companies, they have to be cleaned every day. The bathrooms are dirty. The offices are dirty. The public area is dirty. Whatever it is, it has to be done every day, and they want to know that you are there. You need to express the confidence. A, will do a good job, and B, will be there every single day. It is beyond important, and you can't be hemming and hawing, well, we should be there. No, you will be there, and if you can't be there, you probably need to find a different business, to be honest.
Yeah, I actually think it's amazing how many contracts we've landed from people that just literally didn't show up before we got there. There's so many companies, and we talked about this last video too, where it's like, there's just a lot of bad companies out there, unfortunately, especially in a business like this, because it's easy to get into. But, you know, the amount of times people just don't show up and don't deliver the service is crazy. And so just having that will at least allow you to maintain these contracts once you have them.
Yeah, and when we say don't show up, we mean the cleaners literally just quit showing up. Nobody's coming in. And so those are contracts, you can get them easy. They do occur, you know, but it's a numbers game. You got to send the emails, you got to answer the phone. If you don't do that, again, I'll go back. You're doing something wrong, or you shouldn't be doing this, because you have to. Those are not maybes. Those are things you have to do.
Mm-hmm. Another thing we did in the beginning, and now we have teams of people that do this, but it's cold calls. We actually have teams of people who do the emails as well. But the cold calls, with that said, is that they're much slower than emails, because with emails you can kind of set it and forget it. Even with like Gmail and Spark and certain email browsers, you can like set a timing thing. So like, I want to send 10 emails tomorrow at 10, and it's done. You could kind of do it whenever. With cold emails, there is like cold calls. I mean, there is windows of time that you probably want to make these calls, and it just is time consuming. I would even take it back to the going back, comparing door to door to doing cold calls. Like door to door is much slower versus doing cold calls, and the cold emails is even faster than doing cold calls. But with that said, I don't want to leave out the effectiveness of cold calls, because they are so massively big in this game. They're very big, and if you have the time, like, you should spend the time and make 20 to 50 calls a day. And if you're doing that consistently and doing the emails consistently, you're gonna land these contracts. I mean, it's just a matter of time. It's just about the consistency of actually doing it, don't you think?
100%. And if you need help with the cold calling, that's a process we have down to a science. Contact us, reach out to us. We can show you how to do it. We have people who do cold calling for us every day. And it's not about the aggression. You want to be confident but not aggressive. You want to be respectful, and you may not get that job the first day. The first time you talk to somebody, they're going to call back. That is what we found. It's not, you know, it's amazing when we go in, bid it, and we get the job right then, and we're like, whoa, that was fast. But normally it's a process. They get to know you, they look at the information, they talk to somebody else, and it's a process. So you got to continue to focus on just moving forward. Okay, next. It's sales. It's what it is.
Also, something that's so important in sales is the increased like touch points. You know, a lot of people like you think that you call somebody once or you send one email one time and like they're like, why did I not get any sales? Well, because the average sale, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's like you need like 7 touch points before someone actually closes. Yes. And so most people are doing one, and the reality is that you should be doing far more than that. I mean, 20, 30. Like realistically, you don't want to pester somebody to a certain extent, but like the first time you contact somebody, you're not going to close them. Average is 7 touch points, so you need to be reaching out to them at a minimum, at least 7 times.
Yeah, and once you get, like to where we're at and you have this business, we don't have to reach out. Our business will grow organically just from our Google My Business page. We get phone calls, I don't know if it's every day, but you don't need one every day for commercial contracts, but we get a couple every week. Hey, will you come look at this job? Hey, will you come look at this job? And frankly, we have a minimum job we will even do. If it's smaller than that, we'll just respectfully say we can't do that job, which is hard to do because we all want business. And you go back to when you started, we felt like we took every job. But now we have certain minimums that we're like, nope, we will not do that job. It's just too small. Or we say, this is our price. If you want to pay that, we know you're smaller than the minimum. We literally tell them because we're confident in what we do. You're smaller than our minimum, showing up every week. This is what it costs. But the confidence, I can't express that word enough. The confidence, fake it until you make it, I guess, is the only thing I can say there.
Yeah.
Just be confident.
Yeah, I think once you have landed a few commercial contracts, we do run Google ads primarily. At least we do often. And those we have found to be the highest level of effectiveness for commercial. I think when you do like house cleaning, there is some effectiveness with like Yelp ads and Facebook ads, and you can have success there a lot more than commercial. But with commercial, I think people are searching for these people. They're finding us online. We do Google ads. We make it so that our Google My Business pops up first. And if it's not already organically is really the end goal. But the Google ads can be really effective in bringing in leads as well. But it's a costly thing. I think in the beginning we started with like $5 a day. And even then, if you don't have the budget for it, like it adds up fast. And so in the beginning, I would start with the free stuff, like trying to find contacts for emails and trying to find phone numbers and contacting those people for free. And that's what I would do in the beginning, because spending all your money is tough, especially when you don't have any.
So, and the first contract we got, we want to talk about that briefly, how that happened. And so that gives you some hope. I'll never forget our first, I'll call it major contract, where it's $50,000 a year or more. Literally, I'm laying in bed at like 8:15 in the morning and I get a phone call. And I'm like, wow, who's calling this early? I answer the phone. It's a business in town. Hey, we're having some problems with our cleaning. Can you come talk to me? When do you want to come talk to me? Can you come now? Basically, I'm like, okay, I can be there in an hour. Good, yep. So I go down there. Cam meets me. We talk to this person. Going back to what we said, the cleaners literally were spending, this is a 5-story building, 10 bathrooms, office, a whole complex. They're cleaning it in less than an hour every night. Well, you can imagine in Michigan how bad that looks after less than an hour of cleaning when you have bathrooms everywhere. And a week later, we signed on that contract, gave us credibility in the town. That person recommended us to other people, and we were off to the races. And quite frankly, since then, I don't think we have slowed down.
No, that was the big turning point. But that would go back to, it's kind of funny with that one because we're not necessarily entirely certain how she found us, but we went back and we believe it was Facebook, I think, but all of our listings were there. Like we had our postings everywhere at that time, and we were ready to go. We were ready to rock and roll, and so that's why I think that we had the success we did. We got the call. We don't know how we got the call, but we got the call because we were ready for the call.
Yeah, but the other thing, we answered the phone and we were ready to talk confidently about what we did. They asked us how many employees we had, but we made sure they knew we could handle the job. And they have been thrilled with us. They called the property manager and said, hey, we don't need a cleaner anymore. We found the most amazing cleaners. Now that property manager recommends us for the other properties that she manages, all because of that one phone call, that first contract, and we did a good job, and we always show up. They have an office of professional people, like many offices in this building, and we're there every day. When we're supposed to clean it, we don't care. If someone misses, we get the next. If someone misses, we get the next. It's very important. So how do we bid these contracts? That's the question that comes up all the time. And it's kind of a challenging situation, but it's really easy. We have a minimum, what we call COGS. So how much it's going to cost us and what percentage of that has to be for us to be successful. But let's start at the beginning. We go into a contract, we take notes, we take pictures, we do everything, we talk to them. And while we're going through, in our head, we are calculating how long this will take us. Will it take us an hour? Will it take us 3 hours? Will it be 4 days a week? You know, and there's a lot of questions. How many people go through the building every day? That's a big deal, because if more people means the bathrooms are worse, etc. And so estimate. Are you going to get it perfect? No, you are not going to get it perfect. But our contracts allow us after 30 days to adjust them if we were wrong. And the person we're hiring with can adjust it too if they're not happy. You know, but it's a guarantee we have. So we figure out how much it's going to take, how many hours. We figure out how many hours in a week it takes. And then there's 4.345 weeks in a month. So if we bill monthly, we bill weekly, we have that data. We then say, how much is it going to cost us for an employee to work, okay? And you multiply the number of hours, then times what's going to cost you for an employee, whether that's 20 or 25 bucks an hour. And then you have a cost. Well, we have a COGS, meaning our cost of goods sold. The employment part of it can only be, we shoot for 45%. So if it's going to cost us $450 in labor, total cost, everything included, we charge $1,000. That's 45%. That leaves us enough money for profit, for renting our office, for the internet, because there's a cost to doing business. And do we get every contract? No, we do not get every contract. We don't want to get every contract. So often you have mom or dad go in there, or a small shop, and they bid really low because they're doing the work. They always come back to us, at least 90% of the time. We go in there, we bid our price, and they come back to us. So while we calculate, and this is an important point, we calculate the cost based on an hour. We never say a job is an hourly job. We just don't do that. Our job is $1,000 a week, and that's the cost. We're not guaranteeing hours. Some people really try to press that and say, our job is to clean this place. Just like a salesman's job is to sell it. We're going to clean it. This is our cost. If you're going to do it by the hour, you're going to burn yourself out eventually. It just doesn't work.
It invites a lot of problems too, right? Because then they're counting the hours. Say, okay, it's $1,000 a week, or we're supposed to be for 20 hours this week. But if the job needs to just be delivered, the job is delivering a clean facility. And if we do it in 3 hours, does it really matter? And then that's where you run into issues, right? Is where they're counting the hours. Either you saying 20 and they were only here for 17, and that becomes an ongoing issue.
And we find that higher end clients don't count the hours. They know all they want is the job done. If the job's done right, that's all they care about. I can go back on the other end. We bid a job. We bid it for 2 hours a night, and we would send somebody in for 2 employees for an hour, and they're like, well, you're only here for an hour. Well, we sent 2 employees. We're still only here an hour, and I'm paying for 2. So you get all, and the low end of them people, that's what you get. It's kind of crazy. And this person, it was when we first started, would call and say, you guys were only in the building for an hour and 50 minutes. Literally would say that. You didn't fulfill the full 2 hours. And so we literally, the person called us, we said, you know what? This isn't working out for us. You need to find another cleaner. They couldn't find another cleaner. But we were happy. It was one of the best decisions we ever made, was walking away.
Yeah. I'm going to go back to the bidding for a second, though. I think the process basically is we do a walkthrough. We always schedule a walkthrough with these facilities, and then we guesstimate a time frame and how long it's going to take us, right? And the guesstimation of how long we think it's going to take is calculated with the hourly, right? And so, there's some level of standards where it's you have 5 minutes of toilet and 5 minutes of sink, and you can kind of guess how long a facility is going to take. But at the end of the day, there is just a level of guesstimation that has to happen, because you don't know how dirty a facility is really going to be. It depends on the personnel that's going to go through there every day. It depends on the head counts and the fluctuations, and at large businesses that changes day to day. And so it's really just a guesstimation of how long you think it's going to take, especially on, say you have a job that's 5 days a week that you're bidding. It's going to be cleaner, or maybe not necessarily cleaner, but you're doing it more often, and it's probably going to be easier, and your time per day might drop, actually. Whereas if you're doing it once a week and you're cleaning that same facility, it's probably going to take you 15 hours. But yeah, it's a guesstimation on our cost, and then we calculate our cost, right? And then above beyond that, we calculate what the profit needs to be for that business to make sense.
Absolutely. And a lot of jobs we estimate in an initial clean, because the initial clean on a property is always way more than the daily clean. And if you can get in there, a good cleaner can get in there and get an office complex. Let's say it takes 10 hours the first night. It'll take 6 the second, and eventually it'll get down to, 2, 3, 4 hours every night max. because they've already done the dusting. They know what they did. It's why consistency is so important and why commercial is beautiful, because you're cleaning something 5 nights a week. You know you don't have to dust this. You know you don't have to have, some bathrooms barely get used in a commercial complex on some days. After a while, you know exactly what it takes, and it's always less, and that's why it's so important. You get the commercial jobs, it's consistent, it become easy work, to be honest.
Honestly, commercials easier to clean than houses. They are, and they're, frankly, they're bigger. It's much easier to scale and get big in commercial than it is in houses, because you can land one contract that is equivalent to 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 houses. You know, one contract could be that big, and it's one place that you're cleaning. You know, the 100 houses, maybe it might be a facility, a large facility, but either way, you know,
Yes.
Those do exist.
So let's go into, what if we had to start over today? How would we make it easier? How would we make it faster? How would we make it better? What would we do and not do? And I have a list right here of the things we would do. We would put our listings everywhere. All of the places, the Yahoos, the Yelp, the Google, all free. Get your name, get your number, put it everywhere. Cold emails consistently every day. A few emails every day. Just keep moving that 1% every day. Cold calls every day. If it's only a few, most people aren't going to answer, but do the calls. A little bit of expense with a simple Google ads, but Google ads do get you out there. They give you name recognition. You will get phone calls. And I think this is imperative. Relentless follow-up. Email again, call again, continue with your ads. Always, it's consistency wins in this business every single time.
Yeah, I was gonna say consistency, I think, is the most important thing with this in general. I think it's just sales. Sales in general can be, there's a certain level of volume to where if you just hit this level of volume and you do it consistently, like, you're gonna have success. And like that, to a degree, is what sales is volume and consistency. And if you're doing a high volume and with a high level of consistency, you're gonna get a lot of deals. But the same is true with even if it's low. Low level of consistency, they're still gonna get build up, but it's just gonna take long.
Most cleaning companies don't fail. They stop reaching out to people. You can't stop. It's a continuous. Like, that's what we do now. We're continuing things. You know, we used to be the guys. We did the cold calls. I've been on the phone trying to get people. I've done the driving around. We've placed the ads. We've done all of that. You know, and if I have to, I'll step in. But it's rare when I do, because we have the systems in place to do it. And that's why our company works. You know, what do we do now? We build our business, but we buy cleaning companies now. We're always on the look for other commercial companies. We bring them into our system. We make them better. We make them more efficient. We make them bigger, and we put them into our portfolio of a parent company. But we won't get into all that right now. But we continue to look for companies nonstop. So we've kind of changed what we were looking at from how do we get more commercial cleaning jobs? We have systems to do that for us every day. Now we're like, how do we buy more cleaning companies? How do we grow this exponentially? So we're buying $1 million cleaning companies to go with our original one, which is just a small piece of the pie at this point.
Yeah. So I mean, we went from not knowing how we got our first contract to doing all that. You know, so it happens fast and slow all at the same time. I guess I'd say it feels slow when it happens, then in hindsight, it feels like, oh, that happened really freaking fast. You know, at least that's how I felt.
Yeah, it goes crazy. At first, we were like, okay, how much do we grow? I remember having on our phone, let's get to $3,500 a month. And then a year later, we're like, okay, let's grow by $10,000 a month. Well, that wasn't enough. We were growing more than that. When I say $10,000, I mean $10,000 in recurring revenue every month. We were growing that much every single month, okay? And it doesn't take too long when you start doing that to get a 7-figure company. It's just that first grind. You know, one of my favorite lines is the pinwheel. You got this big, heavy wheel, and you got the company. It's like this. You're pushing it, and you're hitting it, and it doesn't move. It just sits there. It doesn't go anywhere. So then you're like, oh, my God, it moved. We got our first contract. And you keep pushing it, and you keep pushing it. And pretty soon it starts moving more and more. Well, what happens is pretty soon you get on a hill, and that wheel's going downhill. And it doesn't stop. It's all on its own. And that is where you want to get to.
All right, I just want to say thank you guys for watching this video. If you liked anything you saw, please hit the like button and subscribe. We're making a video every week.
Thank you. Have a great day.